Good evening. Can you hear me? I've done one of these in a while. Um, Let me see. I always have tech issues, even when I do everything right. Hmm. Okay, I got a yes. Thank you so much. Hi, I'm gonna start saying hi to people for a few minutes, and then I'm gonna get right into it because this is going to be a very heavy presentation, a lot of big topics that I'll take on. And I originally wanted to, I sort of queued my Patreon for questions they would have for certain sectors of key players in the case, and I will do a separate video on that because it got so long. The slides are I'm thinking 35 slides to get through. So part of what prompted me to do this is one is I've got pretty big intel that I got. It is a rumor. I didn't, see documentation, so I'm not going to claim it as something that I know to be 100% true. But I heard it a couple times through two different separate sources, and it enough matched up. And the source from what I got is so solid and well positioned. Both of them actually are, but, it made me feel c comfortable coming out and calling it a rumor and sort of putting my credibility behind what I heard by sharing it with everybody. So it is good. Um, and then I really want to put to bed some things that are just, I've been watching this case intensely since 2016, commenting online since 2016. I've read everything. I've watched all the trials, some parts numerous times, talked to many key players or people in key positions of the case, and I've been doing this for years. So, and I've read everything. I've read every motion. I've gone above and beyond, with my research and sleuthing. So, there's a couple things that I just see keep getting topics that keep getting recirculated, and I want to take a second to shine a light on them and to show specifically why I think it should be obviously everything until it's nothing is proven until it's proven in the court of law, and innocent until proven guilty, and this is all commentary, of course, but I think that there's enough out there to for people to make a decision. The fact that Harvey knew, I think, and, I see people coming out saying, "Oh, I think, Harvey is just an old man that also" same way that people wanted to give Wendy the pass of just being this baby and her family, like, kept, secrets from her and da, 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 did this all behind her back. Same thing with Harvey. I just think there's enough out there. This is a very enmeshed family. It is very, there are no boundaries. I think there's a lot of narcissism and some I think Charlie is a sociopath, straight up. I think Wendy is a narcissist with sociopathic tendencies. I think Donna is anyone that can kill someone, murder someone, and just, like, go about their lives and not care and not show any empathy toward it, especially in an instance like this, it really you know, Dan may have been a difficult person, he may have been the biggest ass to Wendy, and Wendy may have done so much everything on the stand, she gave the impression that she did things perfectly, and she didn't get nasty with the divorce, which is bullshit. If you read and and you talk to people that know her, it's just that's a false narrative. But, maybe Dan was terrible. Maybe he was the worst person in the world to divorce, but he still was a good dad even by Wendy's own admission. So the fact they killed them and raised the sons and just try to they just terminated a life because it was inconvenient for them. Essentially, it was greed. So Harvey knew. I think that we need to stop treating everybody like little sectors of this Adelson family or little babies that are protected or not aware. It's not true. They were all enmeshed. They in inner workings with details big and small, and they were all in this family as a conspiracy. And that's the reason why I believe Georgia and the state of Florida and state attorneys knows more than we do, can't share everything they've got unless it's useful some way in court. And a lot of what they probably have, they can't share because they haven't tried Wendy and haven't tried Harvey. So just a couple rumors. I've already kind of knocked out Wendy's brain, saying Harvey had brain cancer. I know that I've done that. Maybe some people haven't heard me done that, but that was a lie. So this is another one about Dan's the narrative. You see it get repeated early days with David Latt. You heard it on the podcast where Matt Shear was like talking to one of Dan's friends about how Dan didn't read Wendy's book. And I think it was his name. This is how crazy my details. I think it's Reggie Garcia, who is a local lawyer who was commenting on local news, and was a friend of Dan's. If that's not his name, it's something close. And I remember seeing him this last trial, and maybe another one sitting it back in the galley. So, it's I was asking him about Dan not reading Wendy's book, and I just don't even know if this person had the conversation with Dan. That wasn't clear. But Matt Shear was pressing it. I'm like saying, "Isn't he an asshole? You read your spouse's book." So that it's really annoying that Wendy says something. Harvey has brain cancer. He didn't. He had like non-cancerous benign tumor, acoustic neuroma in 1999 that was removed successfully with surgery. He had no chemo, no radiation. He was back to work in 2 weeks in 1999. Okay. In the 90s. So it was not brain cancer, and it never was. And Wendy knew that. But it made Wendy seem more like a victim, and it got her more sympathy. Remember how Jeff said she uses being a mother as a way to gain sympathy and attention, like she does, same thing with the brain. Like she just will use what she can, no matter, the truth is not important. So, when Wendy said that Dan didn't read her book and spread that narrative, it flew. It got roots, it got repeated on over my day. And, it's a real shame because Dan Markel can't come out and speak, to defend himself. Same with the brain cancer. It's not like Harvey's or anyone's gonna refute that. I refute it, but it's just these false narratives. They just fly and they get repeated and people take it as truth. So anyway, I want to put that, but Dan read Wendy's book. And then what I'll lead with is Sigfredo has been a very bad boy in jail. Okay. And that is where sort of my big scoop. So I didn't really say hi to people. So hi T Kinsella. Oh, we've got Jay's here. What's up? Guys, check out Jay's channel, The Shaming of Jay. Follow all of him. He covers many different trials, and he does so with great humor. And, he's very fun. He's funny. So, and he's smart. So please follow him. He's a great, I support him and things that he does. What's up, Maya? Hi, Mia. I'm just going to get in. This is going to be so long, so I'm not going to spend too long. I just want to say hi. Hey, Sunny. Hey, Angela. Hey, Debbie. Okay, that's as far as I can go back. All right. Here's the big scoop. So these are the quick topics. Sigfredo's a bad boy. Donna's new search warrant. Dan read Wendy's book. Harvey knew. And just general comments. And I think that it's going to be pretty long. Sorry. Rabbit says, I think Talcy Jared, he went to high school with Charlie when he said that there was another of Dan's friends that their father had brain illness and tumor. It was somebody else's dad. Yeah. That's what they do. They take stories. They're chameleons. I remember hearing that as well. Okay. So let's get right into it. Right. Jared Ross. And Jared Ross is doing videos with Palm Beach State Attorney, forgot his name, Harvard guy, Dan's friend. He's done stuff, if anybody knows it. And he's been on he's got a true crime channel, and Jared has been doing some videos, and I just watched one the other day where he breaks down the analysis of why. It's called MTN, I believe. MTN True Crime. And he breaks down Darren, thank you, Society Page and Maya. Y'all got it. Okay. Yeah. So, and he breaks down the reasons why he doesn't think any of the family members will flip on each other, and he goes one by one and sort of why, and he gives good analysis as to why, both as a personally insight as well as legally as a lawyer. Okay. The gang hit that Charlie is in isolation for and has been knowing that he's got a hit on him, the thing that's been scaring him, he's been extorted separately at, like, a low level, but, from what I'm hearing, Sigfredo himself put out the hit on Charlie. Sigfredo is in a gang in prison, and which would make sense of why he wouldn't wanna talk and maybe why he didn't show to Katie's, and that's what, Tara Kawasa said in her post-sentencing, funny quotes gaggle, is that, that if she was saying a lot of what she said was untrue there, like, she was bringing up that Rayburn guy and, she was blaming COVID for Katie not being so good on the stand, didn't mention anything about her previous testimony being used against her and catching her in lies, as well as the, Dolce Vita version, which was deadly. But anyway, she said that, if you don't talk in prison, you're considered a god, and we've all kind of seen that in movies, snitches get stitches, blah, blah, blah. So Sigfredo is in a gang, and in True Lifestyles, I reported that he stabbed someone twice in the face. So when I first heard this news, I was like, was it like a Perfect Strangers? Remember that old movie, Strangers on a Train? That's what it was. And it was like crisscross, crisscross. And I only know that from Throw Mama on the Train, which is, references that, but it's really about you kill someone for me and I'll kill someone for you. You know what I mean? Crisscross. It's like a pact, a murder pact. So, I originally thought, well, if maybe Sigfredo stabbed somebody in the face for someone else to get this, but it's just in gangs, this is what you do. You owe someone money, there's a debt, you wanna get something, your currency is violence, yes, so especially within the prison system. So, it was Sigfredo who was in a gang, and he actually put out a hit on Charlie. So and I'll get into a little bit more of the specifics. How I heard this 2 different ways, as I alluded. Um And, one, I heard it was sort of gang related, like it was a hit put out by like a prison gang. And, you would think Latin Kings, right? The Latin Kings be mad. But I've talked to someone who's smart, knows about the case, and is also a lawyer, and says like, I don't really think the Latin Kings are that concerned about this, to go to all the effort. They're more of making money, they probably they might let this go. I don't know. But you would think it would maybe come from Lewis, and we all saw how, Lewis was looking at Charlie, and they must be Lewis and, Sigfredo must be furious, that Charlie has told so many lies and, used his defense theory to essentially blame them publicly in a high profile case. So when Charlie gets to prison, guess who's in charge now? Guess who has more social standing? It's Garcia. So, the other well, I'll get into the details a little bit. The other one actually came from somebody on the inside, to use a familiar phrase, who has actually who knows what's going on inside, the corrections department. So and I know that there was this theory that, I think it was Patty, said that she heard from a source something about, someone had been a witness and unknowingly a guard in the case, and that's why, they saw Charlie and whatever, and that's why Charlie got transferred. That is, according to this source, that was falsified and is not true. But Patty never, said she knew it was true. She just said it heard. But I think it was a thing, but it's not. This is what, according to what I'm learning, so this is what it was. It's Sigfredo put the hit out on Charlie, and so let me get into more about what I heard, and I have a little bit of specifics. So if you read here, it's a little text-heavy slide, but I'll just read it for you because I wanted to make sure that I got it right. It says that, even though Charlie seemed, pretty happy at Wakulla, hanging out in a unit with ex-cops and probably pedophiles and, things like that, Wakulla isn't all puppies and rainbows, and there's no lobster. Charlie feared for his life, even in protective management. Sigfredo put a hit on Charlie for testifying and lying that he and the Latin Kings had extorted him. The hit in prison is the same as it, is anywhere else. When a person gets targeted for harm or assassination by gang members or organized crime, you can earn yourself a hit by snitching in prison, or by making yourself an enemy in any other way. Or it's like if you owe someone a debt or someone owes someone a debt, it's an inner working hierarchy. And they can get to you, and Charlie's gonna, worry the rest of his life. But this is why Charlie is in there was hit out on him, and it was Sigfredo who did it. So, I don't know what all that, paperwork. I don't even know what happens. I don't know how if you would even prosecute. I don't know what you do when you try to assassinate or it's known, but, that is apparently what it is. That was the issue. And so what else I learned is or I was told, is that Charlie was transferred to Colombia to protect him from someone who's going to carry out Sigfredo's hit. But the threat was followed him to Colombia, whether from the same person or for someone new, right? So it's just I guess people get transferred or someone else got assigned. But I do know that the threat followed him. Started at Wakala and then it followed him to Colombia. Luis Rivera is due to be transferred to state prison after he completes his federal sentence, unless something changes. I know that he wrote a letter to Georgia asking to stay and serve out the rest of his sentence in federal. Um, and then I'm also hearing Charlie may actually get moved back to Wakulla now, and they're going to be doing some shuffling. And so maybe I don't know. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe he's there now already. I don't think so. We'd see that, but that may be their plan for them, is what I'm hearing. Um, and regardless, there's only 2 protective, as we know, management programs in Florida, so it's gonna get crowded with Sigfredo coming out with, sorry, Lewis coming out with Sigfredo and whoever he's contracting or whoever his gang is getting. But, I just yeah, it was, Sigfredo himself put out a hit in prison to take the life of Charlie. Crazy. I mean, it's not crazy, but it's crazy. I mean, what did Charlie think was gonna happen? So, let's see what people say about that. That's it. Let me see. The hit is a green light, says Driven Jabs. That's right, Dana. Little birds everywhere. Yeah. When I heard it the second time and I heard I heard about where the source anyway, it's pretty solid. Sigfredo, that is what it was. Him and his gang. Um, hold on one second. Sorry about that. Let me see. All right, I'm having trouble finding relevant. Okay, Sigfredo is a cold-blooded killer. He is. Okay, so I'll go on to the next thing because I have a lot. Okay, so the Donna's new search warrant. The thing that I want to sort of point out about this is how basic bitch her this new email address is. Grandma Sobe, that's South Beach at 1 at gmail.com. And we of course we know that it's the Donna Harvey at Gmail as well. But yeah, it's just of all the things she first of all, I think it's so dumb even for people that have been married 50 years. Anyone that has a Donna Harvey, like that has a joint combined email address. They're a bit older and a bit, different generation, so I excuse it. But this grandma one, so South Beach. I mean, that is it just shows how tied up her identity is in her family and her family role. But yeah, so they never, if you think about this, they never got into Donna and Harvey. And those were all where all those emails were flying. They just had that from Wendy's cell, right? So of course they'll get deleted messages. I can't think that they didn't think to clean up or weren't careful, because even when Katie got caught back, and I don't know if you remember that wiretap, when Katie got back, or when Sigfredo got arrested, she called AT&T, and she was trying to specifically inquire about one text that she was trying to get from 2014. I don't ever know what happened to that. I don't know if state attorneys ever got their hand on that, but you would think if she's calling to get it or see if she can get it, she's worried about something that's very incriminating. I mean, they never used it, or I didn't see it, or it wasn't pointed out that that was that. So I don't know. But you got to think, when all this is going down, you kind of clean house, right? We know Wendy's dating an IT guy. So, and we also heard on those jailhouse calls that IT guy, Wendy's boyfriend, George, was coming over to help Donna with some stuff, whatever that may be, right when after Charlie was convicted and they were making arrangements. So I just thought that was very curious. And then I also wanted to point out, um, okay, sorry, I'm getting messages. I'll stop checking them, but they're relevant to what I'm saying. Okay, so I also want to point out, when Donna was arrested, we know that Sanford took her phone, right? So if you look here, it says, and I just pulled these pieces from the search warrant, that she was arrested on 11/13, right? And they got her iPhone. Okay. Then they came back the next day, and this hasn't been reported to anybody anywhere else, right? So um, this is just me flexing with information that I have. But the next day at the Icon, Harvey was talking to Charlie on the phone when the FBI came and delivered this search warrant. So that is hilarious to me. And that's just a little some color. But anyway, if you look here, look at all the things they got. I just want to remind us, we know this, but you've got another white iPhone, right? Then you've got an iPad. And I was going back, pulling things for the things that you'll see later in this live stream. But if you look here, if you look, it says when the emails that's from Harvey and Donna in 2014 or 2015 or 2013 or whenever it was before the divorce, all the crazy emails, they were sent from an iPad. It said sent from my iPad. So it's fun. You just got to think about all these devices. And I don't know if they've hooked everything up to the one iCloud, or if they saved everything on just devices. I don't know what sort of practices they were doing, or if they just had one shared, or if Harvey and Donna had separate drives. But it just feels like there's a lot of information. So you get another iPhone, and this was taken from Harvey the next day. They came to the apartment and got things. So you got to think they probably had things in house, already taken care of, and things pretty cleaned up, because they were leaving the country on a one-way ticket to Vietnam. iPad, and then you have 2 MacBooks, and I think some of these MacBooks were kind of older, several years old. So that's a lot. And then if you look here, when this got uploaded here, what's on the left screen, this is the answer for demand for discovery. And you can see what they're doing is this is the Celebrate. We see Donna's phone, and then you see the Celebrate for Harvey's phone, and then you see stuff that was collected at the residence. Who knows what that was? Files. And then you see here, documents. And then there was those 2, whatever they got from the computers. So anyway, the first thing I do is I email to try to see what I can get from this, if I can get any of this. So I email, and they reply back sometime. They said, they got it. And then to get all of this, what I was requesting, and I just cut and paste anything I can get from that, it says they're going to charge me $2,500. So what that freaking tells me is that there is a lot of stuff. That's a lot. They have to go back and redact. So I had to, pay something to, not so long ago, it was Charlie's prison file, essentially. And I could see what they redacted and what they didn't, but it's the time to go. And if you look here, it's the rate. It's like they charge like $25 an hour to go in and redact stuff. So if you just look at all of that, that's just that shows me that's a lot of stuff that got dumped on Rashbaum. And Rashbaum is not like a tech guy. Maybe he's very organized, but he even told me I talked to him very briefly at trial. He said, I'm not good with computers. I'm like terrible. I'm terrible at tech." And I heard him make several self-deprecating jokes on that topic in the trial, like when he was talking with Wendy, saying, "Oh, the geeks when you go to Best Buy and they try to get you to buy the warranty for the Geek Squad for non-tech people like me," stuff like that. So it's just that's a lot. That's a lot of stuff. I'm hoping a lot of it's relevant, but I just thought that number was really high, which told me how much it was, how much he's got to work, how much they have to work with potentially. So I just want to remind people there's a lot of stuff. So okay, let me check in with the comments. Eric says Rashbaum's false modesty. Yeah, it's so funny. He said something funny when I was walking through the door one morning, the day that Charlie was tested. I've told the story before, but there might be some new people. But I was walking through the door to go into court, and Rashbaum was there holding it open for somebody. And I think someone said something to him to the fact of like big day, and he said, "Oh, it's not so big. I only have to ask questions." Which is he was thinking light on his feet, and it's a good response. It was funny. Give him credit. Credit where credit's due. So anyway, I tweeted that out that he had said that. And then so it was a nice thing. I think it maybe opened the door. So it was shortly, I think after that on the same day, he came over and he walked directly to the galley, and I could tell he was coming to me, and, but he was so intentional because Joel was sitting right next to me as well from, Surviving the Survivor, and I don't know what he was gonna say because 'cause I've said some things. I've had some opinions, and but he came over and he was said, like, he goes, "You're very talented." I was like, "Okay." I kind of was surprised, and he was like, "Yes." And I said, I know I can be, harsh, and if I did anything to offend you, I do I'm sorry. I'm just and trying to be nice." And he said, "Oh, don't worry. I face off against the toughest people, like Al-Qaeda, said something like that, like Taliban." I don't know what he said. Um, and then he looked at me, and he grabbed his chest. I think he even put his hand on his chest. And he said, he said, "I seriously, you're very talented. I'm so terrible with computers. I can't do it." He said, "I could never do what you do." And then he turned to Joel and he said, "I could probably do what you do, but I couldn't, but he was impressed with the tech he liked I guess my graphics and stuff like that, or my videos. So, but I just thought that was really funny is that he also found a way to say, "I'm not good with computers." And yeah, it was that false modesty. Okay. Um, Sally. Oh, so Jared's here. Just finished watching about your video on Adelson's flipping. I so hope Charlie or Donna will flip on Wendy. Never happen. It could if it's gonna happen, it's gonna be Charlie. I was talking with people in the case, and I was like, wouldn't it be so or people about the case, and I was like, wouldn't it be so funny if like Charlie came out? It's like I have this vision of remember Cape Fear, where Robert De Niro, the character, I forgot his name right now, but he's in jail and he's like working out. He's got all these tattoos and he's like very sunny. He's about to get out. But it was like I was thinking like Charlie, just like walking out and just being like so zen. It's like for the first time, and it's like he went to a silent retreat or something. People go to silent retreats specifically to meditate and to get very zen. I was just like, what if he came out? Thank you. Um, what if he came out and he said, "All right, you got me, let's do this," "She drove by the crime scene, she left me no choice." So, it would be so funny if he came out and just kinda just let it all out, just freed himself, but I don't think it'll happen. You can hear how he's justifying things, and rationalizing things, right after, it's like I also you notice too with, like, people when they're caught doing something bad, and they're narcissists or, they have bit personality disorders, I don't know, what I would classify them, but you notice this with my life experience, if they ever got caught in doing something or called out or, I don't know, anything unfavorable is pointed out to them, you can almost see, like, they rewrite history, or they, like, blame things, and I might have said this on a, before, but it's almost like they're able to justify it and blame other people, and particularly, I had this person I worked for one time, um, and they every time someone left the company, it was like, whether there was no problem at all, they were moving on to something else, it was on good terms, but they would blame everything on that person, like, "Oh, we've gotta get a new person. We weren't doing well because of this person." It was like it's almost you see, like, they I don't know, they completely rewrite history and don't take accountability. That's the big thing. They don't take accountability. So you can hear Charlie, like, telling narratives, and the very obvious ones that we all heard is, like, her George's closing, her presentation, that was, awful. It was just it was a very clean visual presentation of the facts, with some narrative in there. And, he couldn't take it. And so even Donna jumped on the board saying, "She didn't do that by herself. She didn't know. She's not capable." Um, so it's just you see they're rewriting history, right? So they're, making up things. So it's just I think that with the more time that Charlie has alone, I just think the deeper he's gonna get. Especially since we know he's been pumped up. Like we heard on all the jailhouse calls. Like, um, I'm not gonna be talking bad about Bree because I am rooting for Bree. I like Bree. Bree, I know Bree has a baby with Charlie and she can't take that back, but, and I know she has a bond with Charlie because of that, and the Adelsons, and she's her own person, not getting into it, but, yeah, I mean, Charlie surrounds himself, so we hear it on the calls in 2016 in the bump, um, how he talks and kind of surrounds himself with sycophants or people that constantly pump up his ego and listen to his stories and tell him what he wants to hear, and then we heard that on the jailhouse calls with this woman, well, as I mentioned, Bree, but you hear Donna. There was, a woman, Sky, that was like, "Oh, yeah," everyone was saying how you beat Georgia and that, when I watched it the whole trial and it was so good. So you see and you hear him repeating that to Donna saying, "Sky told me that, that everyone was saying this." So you can hear he's, like, feeding and other people feed it as well. I think with the solitary, that will stop, but it's gonna be very interesting psychologically to see how he kinda especially he's living in a state of fear. He will be living in a state of fear for the rest of his life, which may be short. Janice, yeah, Janice is too. It's like they just tell him what he wants to hear, and it further emboldens that narrative to rewrite history and not take accountability and blame others. I have told Bree says Bree stays defending Charlie on Reddit. Reddit, let me tell you, I talked to, a couple people. I actually talked to Ryan Fitzpatrick for the first time, um, recently, and, Reddit is a thing that will drive you crazy if you know a lot about this case or about anything because it's good how it has the up and down voting, but there I go on Reddit is it is it's like people d I don't know how to describe it. It's like this is a very complicated case. Anybody that's following it knows that. There's ins and outs, there's code words, they're saying things they don't really mean. Wendy would I'll get into the book, next, and then I'll, get into Harvey. There's so much more to go. But, it's just like even, Wendy saying her dad has brain cancer, that when Dan didn't read her book, like, and that flies as narrative. So there's just you have to know things, you have to read things. That's why I get so mad at some of the YouTube, uh, you know, commentary and stuff on this case. There's a lot of great ones, no doubt. And I started out, I was a wreck. I was not on, good at this, and I'm still not. But I've read everything. I've read everything. I've dug on this case. So a lot of times when I see, people going out on YouTube, I can tell they haven't read anything. I can tell they haven't like read, I can tell they haven't watched the trial. So what Reddit is just like, and that's very frustrating for me, as to see that, right? To see people kind of come in and like throw down their opinions or whatever, and I can just tell they haven't done the homework. They shouldn't be commenting. They shouldn't be in a place of authority. They shouldn't be sounding off. But Reddit is like way worse. It's like anybody can go on there and say like absolutely anything. And a lot of things I know, and you just find yourself going in a rabbit hole and like really bring playing as having played tennis, whenever you play with somebody that's, of a lower level, you drop down and you start playing on their level. If someone starts, hitting lobs or hitting like, slowing down the pace, it's incredible. It's like that. Then when I go on Reddit, and Ryan Fitzpatrick said the same thing, it's like Reddit, and so it's just, and other people have said that to me as well. Reddit will drive you crazy. So I think she just lost her nerve. Yes, she's always gonna have some allegiance to Charlie, probably. I mean, you hear Charlie on these calls, you've heard it. So just, I don't know. Everybody can have a redemption arc, right? And Reddit really will make you go crazy. So I've told her to get off Reddit. I've told her not to do comments, but she's her own person. And I lose my shit in the comment section as well sometimes, and I don't like it and wish I hadn't done it. And it feels great while I'm doing it when I'm fighting, but it feels like crap after. So and I think probably Bree would feel the same way. And I know others feel the same way. So Reddit. But yeah. Okay, I have so much more to get through. Dan read Wendy's book. Okay, so let's just start out how this all started, this narrative that Dan didn't read her book and it got picked up by Over My Dead Body, like, and portrayed by Matt Shear as a fact, okay? So this is the transcript, and it's got gibbers edits here, but it deserves, I don't want to show it because this is a more accurate display, so I decided to use the one with the edits. But I'll just read it to you. It says, last July, someone, we still don't know who, shot my ex. She put husband, right? She didn't put ex. Because it makes it sound like it affects her more. It makes her more victim-y. Point blank in the back of the head as he pulled into his garage. See, that shows, that's a big sign of guilt to me right there. If you want to get, a wordologist on this. Because she's putting back of the head. That's not where he was shot in the face. He was covering his face with his hand, but it was dead on. The gun was pointed at his face, not the back of his head. The back of his head is something you would say if you want to feel better about him. It says disassociation. That's really, that for me, that's like a oof. So the back of the head as he pulled into our garage. See, like she's not saying it's her ex, and she's saying it's because she's storytelling. It's, you're going to feel much more engrossed in the story, and you're going to feel much more sorry for her. She's going to get a lot more attention if she tells it this way. After driving our then 3 and 4-year-old sons to preschool, we married when I was in my mid-20s, when I thought I could cheat the system by marrying a man I lacked passionate love for because, hey, didn't that die anyway during marriage? First of all, we married when I was in my mid-20s, when I thought I could cheat the system. Even in my mid-20s, I never thought that way. That's not normal. You marry for love, right? And I'm thinking back to the Tamara Demko police interview where, she says, with Danny and Wendy, she was friends with both of them, and they confided. She said she went on a walk with Wendy before the wedding, and she said, I think it was Maclay or something, and anyone in Tallahassee knows that's a beautiful place to walk in Clay Gardens. But they were walking, and she said that Wendy had told her something to the effect of, I'm not really sure. And she was getting cold feet about marrying Dan and said, well, he is someone that my parents would always want me to marry. And so she was talking in the same, so she knew even before. I just don't think that's very normal. She's trying to portray it like it's like a normal thing in your mid-20s to think that you can like cheat a system. Me or my friends, or I mean, I guess I could see some people that were just going through the motions and marrying because they thought they were going to get married. But she's not a victim, right? And that's a very weird way to think about marriage, even then, even if you're young. Um, I don't know. Didn't that die anyway during marriage? No, but you know what died right after the marriage? Dan Markel, your husband, as you alluded that he was. I saw his intellect and his big heart, and I thought he would make a wonderful father for my children. So he was like a sperm donor for you and Donna, right? And then it was no longer worked for you and wanted to be too involved. So anyway, I think that was really important. So, but this is the next one that we'll tackle. It says, our marriage dissolved after the children arrived, and as a loneliness of being married to someone that didn't view me as an equal crept in. I do believe he loved me the best way he knew how. First of all, she just admitted that she didn't love him ever. So who gives a shit if he didn't give you princess treatment, okay? He didn't like fiction, so why would he read my novel? It was logic, not a lack of love. So she's saying he didn't read his book, and then that narrative just took root. So anyway, so this is Ruth's book. This is my first angle of attack, okay? So in Ruth's book, this is what Ruth wrote. She wrote, although Wendy never said it out loud to me, there was resentment. In 2011, Wendy published a novel titled This Is Our Story, a thinly veiled account of her marriage, as well as her fight against human trafficking. Wendy's depiction of her fictional character, Lily's, marriage mirrored what we would later learn were her feelings in her own. Her fictional Lily felt trapped in a small Florida panhandle town while her bumble-prone professor husband, Josh, brought little excitement to her life. Ultimately, Lily left her husband along with their child. Shortly after the publication of her book, Wendy did the same. Wendy often stated that Dan never read her book. Recently, I learned from one of Dan's close friends that he did read Wendy's book. And despite his awareness of her depiction of his character in the story, Dan even promoted it heavily through his circles, including to readers of his popular blog, Prof's blog. Nevertheless, Wendy maintained that Dan had ignored her work. So Dan's close friend came and said, yeah, he did. Okay, so this is evidence. This is evidence. Someone emailed Georgia or contacted the state's attorney's office, and they wrote this, and I'm redacting this to give this person privacy. This person deserves privacy. This person did the right thing by coming forward and sharing what they knew, and just respect that and just take this information. So I've redacted a lot. This person wrote, Ms. Kappelman, I'm a law professor and I was a friend of Danny's. I also knew Wendy through Danny and have remained Facebook friends with her because I've wanted to see what she was posting. I have some Facebook messages from Danny in the year before his death, and I have been holding on to, not sure what to do with them. They are not evidence in the murder, but they do serve to impeach Wendy's credibility. In that Danny raved to me about Wendy's novel and asked me to help her in marketing it. As you know, Wendy has claimed on tape that Danny never read her novel. I also have some Facebook communications from Wendy from the morning of the first announcements that the police had identified Garcia and Riviera. Again, they aren't incriminating, but they're almost too wide-eyed and innocent. If you'd like to see these, you can reply to this email or call me. I know they aren't much, but every little bit helps. Danny loved his son so much, and they brought him so much joy. All of us who knew him want justice to be done here so that their father's memory may be honored. right? Okay. So here's a little bit more. It says, I gotta expand this. Hold on one second. It says, Mrs. Kappelman, okay, I've now sent you all the emails and messages and screenshots. Just by means of background, I was friends with Danny through blogging. We both wrote for various blogs. He mostly for profs. Danny knew that I was a freelance writer and had a lot of contacts in the book and print media world. He reached out to me to ask me to help Wendy figure out how to get her book out there. As you can see from the messages, I introduced her to big names in the online and print media world. Danny was very proud of Wendy and her book. He wanted to help her with it. He was very much in love with her and with their family. He called her Mrs. Bear. One other detail, until the police announcement in the spring of 2016, I was a staunch Wendy defender in terms of the murder, not the divorce. While I was furious with how she treated Danny and was definitely Team Danny, I thought it was very unfair that she was being named as a suspect by all these reporters and bloggers and online commentators. Hello, definitely probably went back and forth with her, this person, back then. When there was no evidence at the time, there was no evidence that she was involved. I was mostly concerned about Ben and Link, that they would someday Google and read about what happened and see that there were people speculating without basis that their mother had murdered their father. Danny loved his son so much and would have been devastated to have them go through any of this. Therefore, I commented on several blogs and on the Justice for Dan Facebook page that people should stop speculating Wendy was involved. Lots of people, including later me, go through terrible divorces and no one kills anyone. Obviously, I changed my tune when the evidence started to come out, but by then there was actual evidence. One more thing, you will see that I make a comment to Wendy on one of the messages that both of us are concerned about our kids Googling us. But it basically says something. I miss him enormously that spring because I knew he would have stood behind me as he did all his friends. I'm never in my office, but if you need to, call me, blah, blah, blah. All right? Okay. Just keep going. Okay. These are a little blurry, and I thought about like recreating them, but I was able to put them in a program and get them. I guess it was just the way they were uploaded or sent to me or got transferred. But these are some of the communications that that person sent. And these are communications with Dan Markel. So they're fuzzy. I'll read them. I can read them. So I just didn't want to take the time to recreate them. So they're not perfect, but basically this is a text or Facebook exchange, some sort of DM between, I think it's, it says Facebook, Dan and this person that I just read the emails. It says, Dan, I'm totally loving Wendy's book. Really long day, want to go to sleep, but I can't put it down. Dan wrote, that's so sweet, which is really funny because that's Wendy's. Isn't that so sweet? Deleted. I'll let her know. And then this person wrote, one question, I was reading on Kindle, so seeing lots of what look like footnotes. Am I missing something? By not being able to read them. And then Dan wrote, sadly, Wendy stuck a lot of jokes in the footnotes. That's too bad about them not being on Kindle. Is there any way to redress that? So he knows where the jokes are, hasn't read the book. He read the book. I guess he just didn't fawn over it the way enough to Wendy that Wendy would want, right? Because she made him look like an ass in the book. And yeah, it was bad. Everyone saw that. And so he's probably just dancing around that politely. She took that as a slight. So anyway, this person wrote, I figured it out how to do it. If you click on it, it takes me to the footnotes. It's clunky though to get back to the text. There are more anecdotes, blah, blah, blah. Does that happen in the print version? Are they in the print version? And then Dan says, I think they are. The footnotes are in the print edition. And then she wrote, hey, Dan, great conversation with the missus. She is great. So this person called and talked to Wendy and tried to help her. Dan wrote, thank you so much for doing that. Great idea about the book. Signing at the Prof's Happy Hour. About the book signing at the Prof's Happy Hour too. Greetings from Tel Aviv. And this person wrote, hope you're having a good trip. And he wrote, yes, it's super. So but yet we're not done. Um, so this is a chain between Wendy, Dan, so now Wendy's brought in because I guess this person's had a phone call with Wendy, right? So now there's a group chat. It says, oops. It says, I had a thought. I was wondering maybe you could speak with Wendy, which your publisher used for your whatever. I sort of think the ideal publisher for Wendy's book is a young people's publisher. Many thanks in advance. And this person wrote back, "Sure, of course I can. I'm on research leave this semester, so rarely in my office, blah, blah, blah. Be happy to talk with Wendy and also hook her up with some folks I work with. PS, finished the book last night, really loved it." Person wrote, "That's wonderful. Many thanks. So glad you liked it." And then, "Sure, we'll look forward to hearing from Wendy perhaps early next week." So whatever. That is he's promoting it. He's helping her. The way that Wendy put it was like he didn't read the book 'cause he didn't like fiction. So she's portraying as if like her book was like in a dusty corner and he like never picked it up or gave it a second thought just because he didn't like it because it was fiction. That's not true. She's lying. And people let her get away with it. Like brain cancer or like telling all her little boyfriends that she got into Harvard and Yale but didn't go because it was too expensive or her dad was too sick and she wanted to stay home. So anyway, here it is too. He's writing, "This is our story," Dan wrote. "I'm excited to announce that later tonight, my wife, the incomparable Wendy Adelson, will be doing a book signing for her new novel entitled This Is Our Story. If you're in Tallahassee, I hope you stop by." And it says this, and he gives a little thing, and then he wrote, "Finally, Timmy, Wendy's been teaming up with others to blog on issues related to human trafficking and law. You can find out about it over here." And he puts a link. So what is she talking about? That he's not treating her as an equal, that he's, like, cold to her. Come on. It's sad how many people are still buying Wendy's little story or persona. It's very sad. And it's sad that people who bought it for so long. Look at the details. Anyway. What's really funny about this too is that this photo of Wendy, she's painting the word empathy. Look, she's painting an A there because she's doing social work or, whatever. Sometimes the worst people have these fronts, they're like do-gooders. Think of many of the rich people in their mansions that are like horrible people, treat their staff horribly. But they do charity work, right? They give to charity, right? They're all fronts for something uglier going on inside a lot of the times. That's how I see Wendy. Okay. All right, now I'm gonna be looking at comments, so if there's anything you wanna put in there, a comment or point you wanna make, about this little last section, and then we're gonna go on to why I think Harvey knew. That was a lot. I mean, Dan read her book. He's talking about, oh, he sucks that the Kindle version doesn't have the footnotes because that's where the funny jokes are. How would he know the jokes are funny if he didn't read the book? Wait, Jared's here. Jared, you wanna say something if you're still here? I heard that 75% of the freshmen who read Winnie's book transferred to another college. I heard that there was a lot of, the people who made the decision for that freshman I forgot what the term was, universal read or whatever it was. Think about all the books that FSU, a university, could assign Steinbeck. I mean, think of all like the wonderful writers and the important lessons of books that you can make sure that every brain sat down and thought about these issues and this writing, this person put it this way, and they chose Wendy. There was a council of people that sat around a table and made that fucking decision. They should be that is embarrassing. Who gets held accountable for that? Someone should be held accountable for that. I don't care how many that's going back a decade. Get that person on the phone, and they should at least let me ask them some direct questions about why they thought that was a good idea. That's ridiculous to read This Is Our Story. That book is trash. Trash. Made all the freshmen read that. Disgusting. Idiots from a university. Wow. I would have fought like hell on that committee. Jared says, "I'm gonna check to see if that's even true that her book was required reading," quotes. Jared, get me the number of can you find out who's the decision makers? What's the little count what's that group called? I will write a letter. That's ridiculous. They should issue a public apology. It's never too late to say you're sorry. Same for Coca-Cola scholars. Next time I'm in Atlanta, I'm gonna drive right up and demand headquarters and demand to speak to the person in charge of the Coke Scholars Program, just to let them know that the state has named one of the person they're promoting as a co-conspirator by the state. So while they're, giving spewing bullshit about morals and ethics and making the world a better place and authenticity, they let her speak and give a presentation to students about how to be authentic and create an authentic statement. I kid you not. She's mentoring students, mentoring young people. Coke, Coca-Cola, and this Americana brand still behind this chick. And I've also heard that there's a lot of division in the Coke scholars about her, where some people are behind her still, championing her, and the other people aren't, and there's real division. I talk to a lot of people. People talk to me, actually. I'm getting worked up. Yes, T. Wendy has a boyfriend. His name is George. I've added him on my Patreon as well as with all the other Wendy supporters behind a private little paywall to, you know, not be such a spaz about it. But they've all come into the public spotlight one way or the other by publicly supporting Wendy in court, um, or by I don't know, just being around or whatever. So anyway, I know a lot about him. His name is George. He's not the son of a billionaire, which is one of the dumbest rumors I've ever heard. He's an IT consultant in corporate world. He has 2 kids. Both are kind of adults now. Um, yeah, but I've named names behind the paywall. Okay, let's move on. Ooh, okay, Harvey, here's why he knew. Okay, it's a tight-knit family. We've heard on the calls. Um, they do everything together, big and small. It's Harvey's going to go change the titles for Charlie and calls Charlie. He's like, "How am I changing the titles in your car?" Donna's paying his speeding tickets, helping out with his insurance. They run a business together called the Adelson Institute. Charlie owned it at one point. They're managing rental properties together. Harvey's doing insider trading. So is Donna a little bit actually, on those wires. It's just like it's so weird to think that they are so involved. You know, Don and Harvey sign emails together. They drive Wendy up together. It's so ridiculous to think that just because Harvey wasn't writing emails directly from him, or Harvey didn't have to do anything. You know why? Because we hear Donna and Charlie, they're getting off on making all the moves and making all the decisions. Harvey's totally fine with being that, guy in the background, but to think that he is somehow walled off, they all live in the same little house, the same little apartment. Give me a freaking break. I'm so tired of it. And I'll say it again. So the fact that he's left out of such a huge life-changing family decision, murdering someone, taking a life, and it changes everything, and it changes everything for Wendy, like, she's not involved, so ending a life and making with all these life-altering and life-ending consequences, and just to leave Harvey out like he's an idiot. Harvey's not stupid, he's actually smart. He went to, I think, the Bronx School of Science for high school. It's like he's a smart guy. His best friend was the chief judge of Broward County and a former, head of the Florida Senate. Right? I mean, he is friends with Ben Graebner, or he was 20 years ago until Ben Graebner tried to resurrect himself and try to get some attention, once Donna was arrested. But, I mean, So, and I've seen what he writes online, so, but he's not the whatever. But Harvey's a smart guy. He hangs out with smart, powerful people. Come on, he's not a bumbling idiot that couldn't piece things together. And Donna's not. Donna's it. It's he knew. So anyway, um, and don't forget that it's his business and he's the owner, and Catherine McBannon was on the payroll, drove his old car. He knows this. The $1 million bribe, so it was split 3 ways. Wendy had a one-third of the portion. Harvey and Donna were gonna pay one-third of the portion, and this is a very extravagant plan. It's a lot of money. They contracted Gary Cohen, the lawyer, the medical malpractice lawyer who made Wendy the job offer and came up to Tallahassee to try to testify in the relocation hearing, which he didn't do because Judge Hobbs shut it down after, like, 5 minutes. They're supposed to have a little mini trial, and it just was devastating. The judge was like, no, no, no need for these witnesses, no, 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 no." So that's a lot of money. It was big planning. They did talk to a lawyer about it. They were talking about papering it up. And so to think that Harvey was willing to separate from this type of money, it's such a big plan, but to think they would leave him out of the murder. And I think even if the murder happened, he wouldn't think, oh gosh, he was our number one enemy. We were trying to pay him off just to go away. Oh man, he died. That's too bad. I don't think my family did it. Even though I know they pushed this ridiculous rabbi theory, stuff, right in the wake after it and everything like that. They had a lot of little things. They pointed to Jeff LaClasse, they pointed to possibly Amy Adler's ex-husband, all sorts of things. But the bottom line is he was involved in this scheme. So if he's involved in these schemes, you'd think they would stop at murder, which has much higher stakes and would probably require everybody who's involved their buy-in, right? So the other thing is, remember, Harvey and Donna, Wendy has testified every trial about how they've been married, some version of they've been married so long they speak with one voice. They signed the emails, mom and dad, all those crazy emails, all this crazy planning and scheming. Harvey was in on it. Donna Harvey at Gmail is their address, both names. So, and then also, Wendy said in terms of anger, when Georgia asked her of name calling, and, Harvey was just as much up there. It was Donna. She said it was about equal. Here's a little, I think there's an important little segment of those emails to read, which highlight Harvey's involvement. Dad and I have changed our lives this year to support and assist you and the boys in every possible way. Charlie's accepted the loss in the office business income for us to do this because he loves you and he wants only the best possible future for you. It's time to show us that you can put on the performance of your life for the next few weeks. Please call us after you read this. We're wanting to talk to you. If you have any other ideas, see, look at that. We're waiting. Show us, not me, us. If you have any other ideas to make last chance for the relocation happen, please let us know. We send this letter with our love and only the best intentions, mom and dad. All these crazy emails, they're reading them together. They're crafting them together. They're both waiting on the response. It's we, us, us, us. Okay. So in the bump, several times Charlie tips his hat that his parents are one. He's talking to them all about this together, right? So they're, again, unit, right? Donna did not separate and do this behind Harvey's back. So Charlie told Katie that he was talking to his parents about everything. When he's calling her and he was trying to get her to come down to South Beach to the Icon. She was like, no, I don't want to come. That's very far. Can't you come meet me? He's like, okay, I'll get in the car and meet you and we'll meet you. But he was outside talking. He's like, let me finish up. I got to finish up with my parents. But he told her, I'm talking to my parents about everything. Harvey is in the unit to talk to about all of this. It's not separated. I know initially the first little bit, it was Donna and Charlie were trying to figure out what was going on because Harvey's such a nervous Nelly and shows the emotion, is more worried, and has a weaker stomach for, I guess, murder and getting caught for murder, than Donna and Charlie was. It was really striking to me is that Donna, after that little incident, was like waited to call Charlie till she's very disciplined. You can hear her on the phone, like, okay, we'll talk tomorrow. I can't come today. Something that happened to me, I would call a babysitter, find a way. I would have gone down there that night. The fact she can still sleep and not, go talk to Charlie about this is crazy. And it just shows how nerves of steel she has. And I've heard she's doing good in prison. I'm sorry to tell you that, but we're on the street. She's surviving in there. So she's not breaking. It doesn't seem like she's breaking. Um, so anyway, there's that. So he tells Katie, "I'm talking to my parents." He's not sectioned off with Donna trying to manage this. Um, there was a poolside at the pool. There was a poolside post bump meeting that included Charlie, Donna, and Harvey. So you remember originally Pat Sanford. And I got this from Pat Sanford being on the stand. Is Pat Sanford said that he tried to originally catch that in front of Monty's, where it's like that photo that you might remember, where it's Donna and Charlie, and they're kind of sitting around a table by the water trying to talk. And Pat Sandberg said, I couldn't, it was loud, it was noisy, there was a restaurant, it was too far away, there was he couldn't get close enough to capture what they were saying, right? There was another instance too, where they were by the pool down at the Icon, and he could not capture it, but they were there. It was such a critical time where they knew that the family was being watched for how they would be reacting to this, that he said that there was a poolside chat that included all three of them, Harvey too, when they're talking about it, but he couldn't capture it, but they were outside, all hunched in together, talking clearly about something. And Harvey was there, but he couldn't get it, so because he was too far away. So Harvey's in it. 2 days after the bump, right? We got that Matsuri video, and Harvey states this. Harvey says these key quotes. It says, "I was surprised the FBI didn't come to me first." Harvey said, "Is this what you agreed with Katie?" Harvey said, "I don't think the FBI were that smart." And then he said, "Are the FBI allowed to do that? Are they allowed to do that?" So these are not. So a lot of people want to think he didn't know about it, right? And so there's people, logically, if you think Harvey was kept out of it, he didn't know about it, right? Then you have to assume that they had to tell him what was going on with the bump, right? Eventually, the heat's on. They got to tell Harvey. And you hear Don and Charlie saying that in 2016 on those wires. Dad is, they let Harvey know. Harvey's upset. He wasn't sleeping. I'll get into that a little bit later. But they eventually tell Harvey, right? They got to tell him about this bump. He comes to know about this bump. So 2 days after the bump, he's kind of calm on that. And these are the things he's saying. This is not the verbiage. This is not the reaction within 48 hours of finding out something so scary. I was surprised they didn't come to me first. Like, he's so calm, right? It's just, this is not match. This is not track with somebody who's just learned about all this, right? He's too cool. He's too calm and collected. These are not the responses. So yeah, so this is what was on the screen. They wouldn't want to talk to Wendy, so you're the next to talk to. And the reason why I think he's saying they wouldn't want to talk to Wendy is because they already talked to Wendy, right? She gave everything. What more are they going to learn? They know her story. Another thing Wendy lied about, and that got passed around, I think even David Latt quoted it. So like, Wendy kept saying she did an 8 or 9 hour interview, to make it was more like 4 or 5. Like, she added so many hours because I guess she counted the car. But it was just another way that she kind of lies and manipulates and changes the facts of the issue to get more sympathy. It's her pattern. This is not somebody who's not, talking about the murder, talking about Katie. This is not somebody who's in the dark. This is not how someone would act. It's very simple. It's common sense. It's common sense, y'all. Okay, also too, Katie gave testimony that Harvey, and when the way they're driving up, that they both dropped off the money together the night of the murder, right? That's something. You think Harvey's just, what does Harvey think's getting dropped off? You think he's kept in the dark? Come on. So anyway, I think I'm coming up to an end. Oh, no, there's more Harvey. No, more on Harvey. Tamara, who many of you may have watched her interview with Craig Isom. There's just nothing not to believe there. That's genuine grieving. That is just someone who you can see they're processing. It is just very authentic. You take that and you can compare it to Wendy. It's just very, it's known. So anyway, so Tamara said that she had met Harvey previously, and a couple times, and had been in their houses and had interacted with them. But she said that right after the murder, when Tamara went to Wendy's house, she said Harvey was acting very weird and he wouldn't look in her eye. And she even went even further to say that he looked her in the eye and he gave her a look like it was a look like I know, and he gave her a look like I know you know. Like it was like she read him. And I've also, I heard that Harvey is just like this. He won't look people in the eye. He's the least, he's got more of a heart. And I think he struggled with this. And there's several instances that show that he struggled with this a little bit more than everybody else in his family. Well, definitely than Wendy, Charlie, and Donna. And there was tells that this was remember Georgia said, like, this weight of this is heavy on people. At the time when all this is going down, the wiretap, the murder, Harvey's the only one exhibiting behavior. It's Harvey's behavior that he knew. He's the only one exhibiting guilty behavior by, that look of, almost guilt he's giving Tamara. It's, him not looking her in the eye. It's, we hear it on the bump. He couldn't sleep after he first learned of it. They were possibly either getting hit up by someone wanting to extort them for money or the FBI. You heard Donna on the call. She said, your dad didn't go to work. He was up till 5:30. He looked at me and said, I can't do it. And I said, that's okay. I'll tell the girls. So he couldn't. He was so troubled. And there was another wiretap where Charlie had invited them around this time to, Harvey could go to some event, like a baseball game, a football game, I forgot. And Donna said, no, he's not. He can't go. He's not having a good day, alluding to the fact that all of this was affecting him because they kind of spoke like it was a known issue that he was bothering him. So also, too, everyone wants to make Harvey like this poor old guy that has a bad family and was kept out of it. Okay, you hear him insider trading with Charlie. It's not like he's got like some moral compass that he's doing bad stuff as well. That's not good. I mean, I can't, that's not a moral thing. You're stealing money. Someone pays for that. It's not a victimless crime, that insider trading stuff. It raises the price for all of us because Harvey and Charlie get greedy and want to manipulate the systems. So it's wrong. It's illegal. So, and it's so funny the FBI was listening to them doing it and not, they wanted them for something much bigger. But imagine the FBI listening like real time thinking, my God, these people are just committing financial crimes. Okay. Not going to worry about it. So he's willing to conspire on other bad illegal things that he knows are morally wrong. But somehow Harvey and Charlie and all of them just kept him walled him off, even though they're all up in each other's business. Come on. Isom police report. Harvey is willing to physically confront and threaten violence for Charlie's lies. He's not a shrinking violet, okay? Let's read this police report again. It's on my Instagram. It's like, so that's something public, and it's definitely on YouTube. I've put this out there before, but this is Craig Isom's report. And you look up there, it's 1/23/2015. So I guess it took him several months to compile this. But he said, I later spoke to Steve, who called the tip line with relevant information to this investigation. Steve provided background information on Charlie Adelson, Wendy's brother. According to Steve, Charlie is very manipulative, conniving, and capable of murder or murder for hire. Charlie has made a life of getting even with people, but in very stealthy manners that leaves little trace back to him. Steve later provided information that Charlie paid two Fort Lauderdale police officers to fake evict someone from their own business. Charlie also owns guns, to include a short black revolver. Steve has seen Charlie possess this gun on prior occasions. I spoke with Steve again, who explained that it was him who had been evicted by paid off police officers. He explained Steve is also these people I think are their cousin or the Adelson's cousins. There's some relation there. I later spoke to Steve, who explained it was him who got evicted by the paid police officers. He explained that Charlie had bought into Steve's business, a deli restaurant, Nauseous. They had two locations. One was in the courthouse, and I know that Peter Weinstein and Harvey and Charlie all used to eat there every day. And think of all the lawyers and everybody that would eat there. So anyway, at some point, they were business partners, this deli. At one point, the idea for a second restaurant came up and they opened it up. At some point after Charlie came to Steve and asked him to sign some paperwork. Steve agreed, but stated that after he read it first. Charlie became defensive about this and argued with Steve about trust. Steve never signed the paperwork, and later that day was visited at his home by two Fort Lauderdale police officers who basically gave him a fake eviction from his own business and a trespass warning. Steve was able to figure out the ruse and get the names of the police officers, but he was not willing to take it up with the Fort Lauderdale Police Department or any other authority. Steve was not willing to provide the names to me either. Later, I spoke to Clark, who explained that he is the father of Steve. Clark provided additional information on the Adelson family. He stated that he and Harvey Adelson were the best of friends. Both were periodontists in South Florida area, and Clark had helped start the dental school at Nova Scotia. Or Nova Eastern, whatever. As a favor for Harvey, Clark was able to get Charlie into school, even at the disagreement with other faculty members. As Charlie progressed in school, he was failing, and he was not doing his required work in the classes. When Clark brought this up to Charlie, Charlie got defensive and accused Clark of sexually harassing him while at school. Clark was able to disprove the allegations, but it severed the friendship between him and Harvey. Clark explained that Harvey was somehow able to use his influence on the Nova board to include a local judge in Broward County to get Charlie passed through with a degree. Clark explained that Charlie did not meet 25% of his requirements to earn his degree. Amongst the allegations, he was somehow just given a degree and has been practicing periodontics with his father ever since. Clark explained that Charlie is manipulative and a pathological liar. Clark explained that this all occurred around 2006 and that in 2008, he and Harvey had a chance encounter while on vacation. He stated that once Harvey saw him, he immediately approached him and got within inches of his face and were nearly touching. Clark stated that Harvey wanted to fight him right there on vacation, but Clark was able to walk away from the encounter. But beforehand, Harvey made a statement to the effect, "No one ever messes with my children." That was a very true statement. Clark stated that he'd known Harvey for over 30 years and grew up with him, going on vacations, parties, business ventures, and he was very friendly and thoughtful. But he saw nothing but hate and was prepared to do violence despite their history on the word of his son. Clark also stated that he was aware that Charlie kept cash in shoeboxes in his house and that he makes shady deals with dentists in his area and pockets the money so he doesn't have to report it to the IRS. 25%? I mean, they just gave him a degree, a Nepo degree, a Nepo Perio degree. Awful. Awful. Every patient that has been, that's awful. And I was so hoping that the dentists would come out and, somehow expose this little racketeering or this like tax evasion, whatever the hell they've got going on, paying Charlie in cash. Come on. Anyway. Okay. Comments. Write your comments now. Oh, I saw a friend. Hey, Judy. Miranda B is a friend. Hey, if Harvey was so good, he would not cut out his son Rob. Yep. This really pisses me off is this narrative, and I think somehow it's like everyone's like, he's in poor health. He's so fragile. you know, this is just this is just stuff that, like, simmered up to the surface. This is just stuff we just happened to find. Think of all the stuff we don't know. I mean, I don't know. I just don't know why people wanna give this guy a pass on knowing and being involved in the conspiracy. Every trial, his photo has been up there, and I know that you have to commit an overt act. You have to do something. You have to somehow move a puzzle piece, move a little piece on the chessboard. You have to touch it. Harvey didn't have to touch anything because, like I said, Donna and Charlie got off on doing that. So much so that, Harvey just was sitting in the car. You've Charlie would say is you have to prove the person was in the car at the scene of the crime. Harvey was in the car. He didn't pull the trigger, but he was in the car. I don't think they'll ever charge him. I'm realistic enough because of that fact. It'll never be heavy enough. He never did as much, but he knew. Let's talk about corn. A lot of food talk here. This is where it stemmed from. I sure wish we had a Jewish deli, and I remember there was some deli on Appalachia Parkway. What was it? Um, okay. There was Jason's. I remember Jason's Deli. That's what I was trying to think about. It wasn't Jewish, but you could go get the little soft serve afterward, after you hit the buffet. Now I've become such a freak. I really don't like buffets. I just think there's way too many germs. I saw something or read something, I don't remember, but it totally backed me off the buffet. Every time I see a buffet, if I have another option, I'll take it. Um, Bob from accounting. In the end, does Wendy skate? In the end, I think so. Maybe. Maybe. I know there's a big difference between there was some stupid, not stupid phrase, but it was like some defense attorney said, um, oh, here, this is something the fact I won't repeat it the same way, but they said to me, I heard, all all of my clients did it, but not all of them are guilty, or something similar, but basically saying you have to someone being guilty and proving it that someone's guilty is a very different thing. Rob wants nothing from Daddy-O. Wendy likes to co-opt things. It's called mirroring by narcissists. Copy what you don't have. Yep. Fancy read Debbie Martin's comment about Charlie at dental school. There's a lot of comments here. I'll go up and keep looking. Jared says, someone mentioned something about the brain cancer earlier. Yes, one of Wendy's best friends lost her mother to brain cancer. Wendy then co-opted the story once Harvey had a benign tumor. Ugh. The worst. I'm just reading through the comments. Sorry. I don't think any amount would have been enough for these people. They were obsessed with money. You know what was recently watching is I was looking for something and like a little clip, and I was rewatching the 2019 testimony not too long ago of Wendy when Georgia asked her if her parents are wealthy, and she was like, "It depends on what you consider." I mean, she actually at that point she looks kind of at that 2019 trial. She looks almost like drugged. Like she's on. I mean, she is very. It was her most like robotic, Jodi Arias, inauthentic. It was just wow, like, I saw a psychopath when I went back and rewatched that. Just the way she's so controlled, her mannerisms, it was like it's the worst one. I think it shows, um, severe problems, internally with that woman, but, in my opinion, is, she said, "It depends on how you would define wealthy," and she kinda, like, shrugs. She talks with this, like, whisper sexy, "Depends on what you would define wealthy." Georgia goes, "Are they millionaires?" And she kind of tucks and she gets super polite and shakes her head and she almost smiles. She goes, "No." It's really disturbing to go back and watch it. I was like, "Wow, that is a psychopath for sure." It reads a lot like a psychopath, and it blew me away. "Are you asking me to speculate?" And she's, it's like that breathy, not to get political, but I once, like, saw, it was someone who did an impression, one of those SNL people who did an impression of, Ivanka Trump, and they're talking about how they did the impression. She's like, "I do this breathy, like, I've got a sexy secret. I've got a sexy secret I'm dying to tell you." And, like, that's the whole, like, tone. I mean, that 2019 is like, "I've got a sexy secret." And that, it's I see a psychopath. I just don't know how other people can. I mean, people did grasp it right then, but going back and watching it after the other 2 where she's more broken, torn down, but she's so I mean, it is really something to see. Wide-eyed bobblehead, yeah. She flirted with the bailiff. She flirted with everybody. She flirted, in 2022 with, the jury. She, like, did that little eye movement. Um, and for me, it's like, also too, is I've heard that, Wendy and Donna, they think that they're, like, smarter than everybody else, but actually when you're in front of them, you can see the wheels turning in their head. They're not as smart as they think they are, and when someone that told me that, I immediately thought, that I see that now when I rewatch since they told me that. And this is coming from someone who's, like, had those 2 in front of them, and it was saying that they think that they're smarter. That's the impression, but you can see, like, the wheels are turning in their head, like, you can see they're not thinking as fast as they are, and they're very transparent, and so but when I go back, I can see a little bit of that, but you have to look carefully. But yeah, and then she flirted, back in 2019 also with Sam Zagana when she was like, "I think he's handsome," and just it's the whole tone of it is so inappropriate. She was flirting with everybody. She was flirting with the victim advocate, Sarah, in The Day That Dan Was Murdered. With the same thing. It's psychopath type behavior. I'm not one to diagnose her, but I would trust Jeff Lacasse too, and I certainly watched his interviews. I believe him. I'm really sucking on the comments right now. I'm really trying. It's hard. Carol says, and then he's working out the actual minutes that she's talking on the phone when she gets off the phone with Renee or whatever, and then gets on with Tova. She's not using her phone at 11 till 11:22. Yeah, she's keeping herself busy. Obviously you can't. I haven't seen anything to compare what her normal mornings look like, but it just feels like she's getting gas. She's always making sure she's got a constant alibi going, a rolling alibi. That's kind of how I'm taking that behavior. But I would need to compare it with. I know she's a social butterfly. Her husband described that way. Um, I think Wendy is arrested as soon as Donna's convicted. Georgia is working on a sealed indictment. Um, I don't know. Fancy, was Wendy attractive in person? She's a mid. She's a mid. I do not get what all that fuss is about. She did look her best at that 2019 trial. She was polished, right? Um, she probably got lasers. She definitely had Botox. I don't know if she gets fillers, but her hair was polished, her makeup was good. Um, she looked good that trial. Uh, but the next one, she was a disaster. Disaster. There's a lot going on. There's all those scrunched up lines at the top of her head. Real scrunched up, like, how, like, you see in cartoons where they do little lines that are, like, extra. There's all like, the top 20% of her head did not get Botox, and that's why all those lines scrunched to the top like that. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Someone did her dirty when they did that Botox. I don't know who did it. I don't know if it was Jerry Obed. I don't know if it was just a med spa around the corner, but, she obviously got the feedback because it was corrected, in 2023, but, anyway, her hair, she didn't get the blowout. She was wearing the same dress, which everyone was like, so there was a lot to talk about. She gave us a lot to talk about looks wise. And I know it sounds petty talking a woman talking about another woman's looks. But I'm not, it is what it is. She's something to look at. She's on stage. But I've lived in New York City for many, many years and lived in LA for many, many years. So I don't have my scale is maybe a little bit more skewed than most people because every most beautiful person, everybody's hometown moves to LA, or New York. It's like everyone's the top of their game in New York. So it's a different scale in terms of what I would see. I used to see, who lived right next to me in New York when I lived in the West Village was, Carly Kloss. She lived on the same street with me. I would see her all the time jogging, no makeup. Saw Giselle all the time. So I would see all these people like beautiful. So yeah, is Wendy, very attractive? She's middle. She's got some nice features, good things about her. But I mean, she's not, people need to calm down, or like she's mesmerizing. She's a bit, that stuff fades with age, right? So what happens is it equals out. The more attractive people, they didn't work on their personalities because they skated by, right, on their looks. So by the time they get to the point where they are not, you know ripe for the picking and not on their fertile prime, it evens out. They didn't work on their personality. They've got this shitty personality. Now their looks are gone and they're up shit's creek. And I think that that's what's going to happen for Wendy. Jared, I was wondering what we are going to have to say. I missed that earlier comment. Your friends called her Hot Wendy. I get it. I heard she was very popular in college. She was like, at her college, she was like, and she was very proud of that she was like one of the hottest girls that are in college at Brandeis. She Yeah, that's right. She may be an 8 in Miami, but a solid 5 here in California. Right. Right. Plus, she's got a shitty personality. So, like Jeff Lacasse says, the first 100 hours are great because she's love bombing, she's putting on the Ritz, she's giving him the old razzle dazzle. But once that's gone, she starts recycling her jokes. She was also, I heard, a very, very, she would just recycle her jokes, like say the same joke over and over again, not the hitman, joke is cheaper to get a hitman than a TV. But just like you could tell, she was not coming up with original content. And that sucks to hang out with people like that. That's a shitty hang. So I heard that she was a shitty hang that way. After a while, just like the same jokes. It got tiresome. Very much like Charlie that way. I heard like someone made that comparison once to me. Is that she, in many ways, when you're alone with her and she's going on these, you heard her on take just even something that you would know. you've listened to that podcast she did in 2015. Like, imagine her in private, you know what I mean? Where she's really being her true self and putting it on the Ritz and trying to impress somebody. You saw her with that victim advocate. It's like that, but, it's just so inauthentic, and then they start repeating your jokes. See? Jared, do you wanna if you haven't already answered, got a deal if he confesses. Depends on what he can give. Bro's gonna die in prison, probably, and I remember Brian Fitzpatrick said when he was on that thing with Judy or STS, he said, "He's gonna be dead in 5 years." And I don't wish death on anybody. I don't, but what do you think's gonna happen when you go and lie about gang members, prominent gang members? You throw a gang under the bus. When you throw 2 people who are prominent in prison and then you lie when um you know, it's like there's consequences. The first time in his life, Charlie is really facing consequences. You read he got a periodontist degree with doing not even 20 a quarter of the work required to get a periodontist degree. He just got passed through. You hear him doing the insider trading. You hear him, all the awful things he's doing. You hear him, how he treats June. June thinks she's having a perfect relationship. He's screwing a 19 within that time period. He hasn't told her anything about the murder, just lets her get accosted by reporters. Doesn't have enough respect for her to clue him in on his life and what's going on and what could happen to her. He's not protecting her from that. It's not a real bond. He's cheating with some 19-year-old. He's calling her over to the house. June thinks she's got an exclusive relationship. He talks to his buddy Clint about how he's going to cheat with another person, and Clint and he goes, "I just feel bad doing that about June." And Clint goes, "You can do it." And he goes, Charlie laughs, goes, "Yeah, I'll do it. Like, I'll cheat." Who else is he talking? He's talking to this woman named Jess, who for the first time, June mentioned it as one of Charlie's other ex-girlfriends because she goes, "A girl named Jess." And that was the girl who was like positioning Charlie to do a three-way. I think they were talking about some woman's, I don't know. There was a lot going on in that call, a lot of sexual stuff. He's basically having phone sex with her. He's like, "Do you wanna" he calls this woman Jess. While he's dating June, he's calling this woman Jess and trying to have phone sex with her. And so it's really bad. So it's like he just did not there's no rules. He gets what he wants. There's no consequences. You even hear that how he's treating the bump. He's like, "Ah, it's the cops, FBI, no problem. You know what? I got a speeding ticket. I'll just get Mike Weinstein to get me out of it. Not a problem." No consequences for this little, I guess, because they felt totally sheltered by having these prominent friends like the Weinsteins. They have painted this perfect image in the community. They felt untouchable. I mean, Charlie sending retired bribing, paying some police officers to go fake evict his cousin because some stupid business thing. I mean, come on, they're manipulators. They're horrible, horrible people. Don't get me started. Another thing, I told you this, and I've said this before. I also heard that nauseous deli, Charlie paid a guy with Down syndrome he got him a pickle costume and got him to go out and dress in a pickle and wave signs for Nauseous Deli. And Charlie would laugh about it and get sick pleasure because he thought it was so funny seeing a mentally retarded person in a pickle. He's evil. He's evil. He bragged to someone about that in like a really horrible way. Let me see. Elsa What says, check out Elsa What has a YouTube channel. Yes, her personality sucks. I shouldn't have opened up the looks comments. It sucks. I would hate for someone to talk this way about me. It makes me feel like I'm opening up the door for that. Ugh. Let's lay off. Let's just say Wendy's attractive. Not attractive. That stupid banana bread joke. Yeah, so what I was thinking about this the other day is, does Wendy have something? She was pretty bold, and that was new this trial for her to say that Dan had asked that no one took the grandma motion seriously because Dan had asked her, Donna, to babysit after filing that, and then her mom had baked him banana bread, and it makes me think, well, maybe they would have used it in this trial if they had something, right? They would use everything they had. But it's like, she never said that before, right? So I wonder if there's any kind of proof of that interaction. Probably not. But that was wild to hear her say that, assert that after Dan had wrote that he'd asked Donna to babysit and she'd baked for him. And meanwhile, if it is true in some alternate reality, I really hope that Dan did not eat that bread, because Donna did something to it. I don't think Dan would eat anything Donna made. She probably put hot dogs in it, put lobster meat in it, make it something not kosher. Okay, I'm trying to read. I'm just lost in these comments. Yeah, banana bread never happened, says Skeeter Girl. Yank Canuck says, just think, in 4 years, one son will be 18. I'm not going to be popular for saying this, and I don't want to comment too much on the kids, but I mean, they're probably so brainwashed, right? I think anyone would be at this point, especially if the older one was communicating with Charlie in jail, which I heard he was. They've been lied to their whole life. Miranda B says, yet under oath, Wendy acted like she couldn't even remember the grandma motion. Now she remembers a banana bread, right? That's right, Miranda Bree. Good point. Katie Cool Lady says, there is no universe where Donna Adelson made Dan Markel banana bread and some mother in law loving olive branch gesture. None whatsoever. Exactly. Judy's answering somewhat. She says, in the calls, Donna and Charlie just kept repeating their storylines like they believed their lies. They were revisionists. Yeah, totally. I've seen other narcissists do that. Yep, Maya, I agree. They're brainwashed. It's unfortunate. Yeah. It was, I don't want to get into it. Yep. They've been brought up with lies and deceit. And what's really so funny is there was another woman, I'm forgetting her name, but there's a woman that was doing the book talks with Katie Kool-Aid on the unveiling. And Katie, can you tell me her name, please? I'm talking about the one whose mother was murdered by her father. And she was saying that she almost like thinks in this live stream, and I actually read her story. I was just very curious about her. Alison Galvani. Yes, thank you. So I was just very curious about her, and so I Googled her 'cause she started talking about it, but it wasn't really fleshed out because the whole live stream was about Ruth's book, and I'm sure that Katie Cool Lady. Oh, Kate, yeah, we'll be interviewing her soon. See, took the words right out of my mouth. But her story is really cool, and I'm really excited to see this interview with Kathy and Katie Cool Lady. And I also think it's really beautiful that Katie Cool Lady, Kathy, who just does this because she's obviously, she's done this with many trials, and she's following the Dan Markel trial. She's followed many other high-profile trials, but it's just very it's beautiful to me because I remember when Katie was first, like, asking me, "How do I start a YouTube channel?" Which is, I'm like a novice, so don't ask me, but, and now, she put herself out there and is talking about things, doing her own thing, and it's a magnet. It gravitates when you're out there and you're being authentic and putting stuff out there. You'll get something back. I've gotten it back doing this, stuff, right? I've made friends, people that I like and I've talked to you about this. So, but what I really liked about Allison is she sought you out in almost a way. It's like to process and to share. And I just thought I think it's a really nice connection. But anyway, Allison, um, she was a little girl, and essentially there's an LA Times article about it. So if you Google her name, and I read an LA Times article about it, but she writes a very beautiful thing. But basically, she was a little girl. Her mom moved out to came from both sides of the family, good side, well, good mom came from a good family, dad came from a good family. Very happy thing, but, the mom was leaving her dad, right? So the mom moved to, like, almost like I feel like it was like a boarding house or some sort of, like, protective, she didn't have a lot of places to go, but she took the daughter and they were sharing custody, and it was like an abusive situation, and that her mom had told people, at that little shelter, the place she was staying, that she was fearful for her safety, for the custody of, I think Allison was little, like enough not to remember, but she remembers. She talks in this article about how when the last time she remembers her mom, has a memory of mom, there was like a yellow blanket, which is really funny because I was looking through Ruth's book today, and she was talking about the baby blanket for dance. So it's like this blanket crossover thing. But anyway, there was like a yellow blanket. Her mom took her in a little picnic, and I think she was like 4 or 5, and this little, and in the yellow blanket. And then her dad, her mom went to go pick up her from her dad's house. But her dad sent her off to another place so he'd be alone, and basically used her as bait to murder, she thinks, allegedly, to murder her mom. And so her mom's body was, like, found, and it was wrapped in that yellow blanket. Allison learned that they had had that picnic, and, so that was a very touching moment for me, like, to read that. And then she said that she believed her dad this whole way through, and her dad, Allison did very well academically and has a great career and is very prominent. Dad really pushed that and supported her, raised her, a little bit cold, but she said that when she first had her child, her daughter, she saw her dad hold her child, his grandchild, all the rage came, or knowing everything came back up, and she was confronted her father and said, "You killed my mom." It was just such a good read, and she's just so brave, and, just to see her come out now and connecting, with, this case, and she's probably getting a lot of care. So she really is the one who can, I think, identify with what these children are going through or have gone through. And it's just it's really a shame that Wendy gets to claim emotional abuse and has her little sycophant friends, boyfriend, and everybody buy into that. Um, think of the psychological abuse and pressure, the actions that her and her family have put on these children. That's much worse than Dan being mean and emotionally abusing. Sorry, Tova Walsh. I know you went on the record and said you saw some real extreme stuff, but emotional abuse that you witnessed from Dan. But I have to ask you, would we now know you have to admit Tova, Wendy's best friend and child advocate, parent, father advocate for fatherhood. You have to now look and think, well, Charlie did it, right? He's convicted in under 3 hours. You'd have to be a raging idiot to look at the evidence, but on top of that, not to accept the fact that 12 people who were listened to everything, from start to finish, convicted him in less than 3 hours, including lunch. So probably more like 2 hours and 15 minutes. But you have to admit Charlie did it, right? He's guilty. Yeah, he's a murderer. He is property of the state. He's not even a real person, really. He doesn't have no freedoms, no rights. So he murdered, right? So Wendy was close with her brother and is still sticking up for her brother. You gotta stop and look yourself in the mirror and think, well, if Dan's emotional abuse was so bad, think about the psychological abuse and lives that have been put on these 2 kids who could have had a loving father. Sorry he was mean to your friend Tova, but, and Morgan, and George, and Jane, and Janine. So anyway, Allison's a very interesting, thing, 'cause she also talks and she, talks in the article about how, like, people had approached her over the years saying, like, "Signs are pointing to that your dad killed your mom," and she just could not accept it, right? So, it happens. But she came around once she had a child of her own, like, almost immediately, which is just psychologically amazing because it was a primal. Everything that she had been suppressing came up when she was able to step out of herself and was protecting someone else, right? So, I'm really looking forward to that Allison interview. Yep, Silverman. She was one of the lunch date people. She was a doctor. Fancy had some interaction with her back in the day on Facebook. She said that I needed to get help, or Fancy did, because I was calling her out on a lie she told Isom in the, interrogation. So, Janine, MD. So I says, "Tova was played like Jane was by Wendy." Yeah, but I mean, what are they really have their head in the sand if they're still carrying on now. Yep, true crime wifey, Charlie's inmate number 6 C62113. Yeah, isn't this is the crime scene tape, isn't this interesting? I don't know what position, but that's definitely that street, that's that day. And again, I just wanna remind everybody, this is all commentary, right? This is commentary. I'm not Georgia, I'm not Jack Campbell. I don't get to see all what they know. So this is, my best guess, right? Yeah, Toba said on one of the 2020s, she said, there was emotional abuse and I saw some of it. He did not treat my friend very kindly. First of all, it looks like if you said anything not PC to Tova, like, it looks like she would wither and die. I could, like, literally blow like, blowing out a candle. I blow, and I feel like she would just, like, wither off into the wind. I think she's just a pushover. She's a social worker. There's a reason why Wendy surrounded herself with a bunch of empaths. You know who likes to hang out with empaths? What personality disorder? Yeah, narcissists, sociopaths. They love empaths. They feed off them. So when Wendy, even in the interrogation, she's like, I'm just realizing now I have a lot of social worker friends. Yeah, I wonder why. All right, I'm gonna wrap it up here. It's getting to be 2 hours. That was a weed. Yep, tumbleweed. Let her tumble on. Let's get some freaking Roundup, spray some chemicals all over these guys. Turn Monsanto on them. I'm down at the bottom of the comments if anybody wants to do any last minute things. Judy says, because those types are too kind and trained to believe people, in my opinion. Yep. Thanks, Jared. Everybody, Jared, you'll probably have a YouTube. I'm feeling that you'll have a YouTube channel at some point. But check out Jared on MTM and does a lot of other. I follow him on socials. He talks a lot about sports and current events, to put it lightly. I'm not touching anything with a 10-foot pole. on the Middle East right now. What I do behind the scenes. I wanna say right now, I wanna get into it. I'm not going to, but I want to say what I think about it. I support all people. Things are insane. I can't do it. I'll do it some other way. Remember the time I talked about politics and I got brutalized, totally polarized everybody. It's like Moses. I split my audience in two. Can't do it because it's not fair to the Markells and people that are interested about this case if you caught nothing. Anyway, but I want to. Thanks, Society Page. Everybody check out Society Page. Skeeter Girl, Debbie Martin. Thanks. This is nice to reconnect with everybody. Saw you smile at one point when Charlie was up there reviewing it today. Oh yeah. Eek. Mia says Tova is a shill for fibbers and is kept around to make Miss Potato Head appear more attractive. Yeah, it does seem like a little bit of a one-sided relationship. Hi, Dina. So nice to hear you again. Any news on the Wendy WAP or any sightings? I haven't heard much about her. Should ask around. Yep, MTN. That's what Jared's on. I know you will, Jared. I support you, Jared. I'll say that. This funny, I don't really think I have mods. I don't think I've ever assigned one mod. Does anybody want to be a mod? Let me know. I don't even know how to do it. Thanks, Jessica. I talked politics a lot a while ago on Twitter. Yeah, Twitter's where you want to throw it down on politics, I think. Hey, Jane's World. It's been a bad neighborhood. Okay. Okay, that's it. Thank you for everyone for listening. And I just want to reiterate, Dan read Wendy's book. All signs are pointing that way. People are saying it. I've just shown you evidence that's saying he knows where the jokes are and he's promoting it. So everyone heard and initially heard from Wendy, who's alive, that Dan didn't read her book because he didn't like fiction. And it made him seem really cold and uncaring and, borderline abusive. So kind of, I don't want to go too hard on Tova because she's getting that stuff, right? But I just showed you. I just showed you in Ruth's book. Dan's good friend said he did. I showed you him promoting it on his blog. I showed you he's really working behind the scenes to try to help her get it out there. He knows where the jokes are in the footnotes. He's proud of it. He was super supportive. What the hell? It was a bad book in the first place. It was poorly written. It had no teeth. I don't know what FSU was thinking. And also Harvey knew he's not this good, ill, feeble guy. All right. I showed you that also tonight. So let's just stop those two things. And lastly, the big news to recap, Sigfredo, I just think about that letter he wrote Catherine Magbanua after he was convicted and she got her mistrial. As I think about, he was like, they are just I'm going to try so hard to get out of here. I'm going to annoy them so much. They're just going to give me the key and let me walk out of here. And now he's putting hits out on Charlie. He wants Charlie dead. And what's funny is the reason that was given to me is not he's not saying he's not spouting that he wants it for Katie. He wants it because Charlie lied. He wants to do it because of the defense theory that Charlie spurted out there. So those are the big things. I hope everybody had a great night. Thank you so much for being here. Justice for Dan. Let's hope more people get arrested. Really looking Donna 2024. Donna 2024. See you there. Bye.